Hi, this is David at Stoneyard.com. The first step to installing thin natural stone veneer is to waterproof. The air and water barrier made by Laticrete is a liquid membrane and it's meant to waterproof. So for example, if we're at poured-in-place concrete or CMU block, we're going to put 2 coats on. If we're going to put it over plywood, which would then be cement board, we're going to put 2 coats. And we're going to go over exactly how we do that. But this is the first step. It keeps the substrate dry. It also prevents any efflorescence from coming out. The salts and stuff, when the rain hits, absorbs in and wants to kind of go back out. This air and water barrier will keep the core dry and keep the efflorescence out. If you had a poured-in-place foundation, or possibly you make it up with CMU, concrete masonry unit blocks, we want to waterproof it, and we're going to waterproof it twice. So the first coat, wait 45 minutes. If it's dry to the touch, we're ready for the second coat. And then after that's dry, after the second time, we're ready to start sticking the stones on. So this is the thin veneer. So step 1, waterproof it, and then stone veneer. In this example, we have a wood frame construction. We've used 3/4 inch plywood. We put the the ice and water barrier on, and that's to help prevent the condensation that will build and to keep this plywood dry. Next step is the perma-based cement board, 1/2 inches thick, and we're going to screw that into place. On corners and joints, we're going to use this 4-inch tape. When there's a joint, it's weak. When there's a corner, it's weak. By putting the tape and then overlaying the high-bond cement, it strengthens this corner. Then, after at least overnight, we're going to put 2 coats of the air and water barrier, and then use some more of the high-bond to attach the stone and the pointed mortar. So the whole purpose of this air and water barrier is to keep the subsurface dry. We're going to have some condensation. The ice and water is helping prevent any kind of erosion from that, condensation. This will keep the water out, and it will keep the efflorescence from happening. Efflorescence is salt from the inside. If the rain would hit this, it would pull them out, and it would leave efflorescence down the wall. So by using the air and water barrier, you prevent that as well. We've got the wall application, and we've got cement board. Notice we have 1 coat of air and water barrier. I just want you to understand visually how it looks. And then 2 coats of air and water barrier. And so even on the first coat, you can't really see the gray in the cement board. The second coat, you definitely can't. And remember, 15 to 22 mils. So we're going to use this wet film gauge to check the thickness. So I'll be using this in just a second. So the first thing we want to do is take the cover off. We want to stir this, liquid, okay? And you're not required to mix or anything. This is all ready to go. But what we're doing is we're just checking for anything that could have dropped into this. We want to make sure it's good and clean. And you can see it's fairly thick. Notice I have temperature. So the area that we're working, that is saying it's 84.7 degrees. I have another gauge for temperature. This is saying it's 86. So we know that it has to be above 40 and below 90. So we're just below 90, so we're okay. If we were above 90, we would have to air condition or reduce the temperature, because this is going to take about 45 minutes to dry at 70-degree weather. So it's going to dry a little bit quicker for us today because it's about 86. We've stirred the liquid, the air and water barrier. Right now, I'm just cleaning this off. I'm using a paintbrush, but remember, this could be put on with a sprayer or you could roll it on. If you're going to use a roller, a 3/4 inch nap roller. So we're just covering a small area here. So let's put some on. And again, anywhere between 15 and 22. We don't want it too thick or too thin. Okay? And remember, you see how I can see some of that gray? You want a little bit more on there. And again, a lot of times coat 1, you can go horizontal. Coat 2, you might go vertical. I mean, you could do it within the same coat. Okay? So what I'm going to do is, this surface is kind of bumpy and rough. And so to measure the thickness, I'm going to drag a little bit of the material onto a fairly smooth surface. Okay? So I'm going to put it on right here. And if we look at this gauge, it says 16, 18, 20, 22. So that's the optimal areas that we want to hit. If it's showing 14 but not 16, that's not thick enough. If it's showing 26, 28, 30, that's too thick. So this is wet. I want to put the orientation in such an area that I can see it and check it. Now right now, I can see both points, so I'm not even at 14 mils in thickness. Okay, so we want to wipe off this surface. Okay, so this is a wipe down surface, and occasionally I might want to take a utility knife and just gently remove any air and water barrier that's stuck to this gauge. Okay, so we know we're a little bit too light, so we apply a little bit more. Okay, and remember, this happens quickly, so we're going to go from being too light to possibly being too heavy. That's okay. We got to get it right. We take the gauge, we apply it to a flat surface, pull it off, and right there, I'm at 20 mils. So anywheres from 16, 18, 20, and 22. That's perfect. So I got it perfect, so that's fine. One other little small detail that I did forget to tell you. Remember we talked about tape and that we put that on for this joint, and we do it also on the corners. Then we embed the high bond cement to strengthen that. While we're doing that, you see these screw holes that hold this cement board into place? Cover the screw holes with a little bit of the high bond cement. The high bond does not like to stick to the screws, and by doing it this way, then we're going to put the air and water barrier over that, and we're going to encapsulate this area so that these screws will last much longer. Okay, so the air and water barrier is used so that the rain hits this, comes off, and it's waterproof, and it also keeps the efflorescence from coming out. So follow these steps. We've got coat 1 on there. In about 45 minutes, it will be dry enough. And you'll notice the lighter color green will turn darker once it's dry. Plus we want to touch it, make sure it's dry, and then we're ready for the second coat. So each coat, coat 1, coat 2, 15 to 22 mils. So once that's done, then we're ready to start hanging the stones. And we know that this is going to stay good and dry. The core will stay dry, whether it's on a poured-in-place concrete foundation, CMU, or in this case, a wood frame application. Thank you. This is David at Stoneyard.com.